Hello, this is Brett Lonsdale from Lightning Tools, and I'm going to show you a new version of the Lightning Conductor. The Lightning Conductor is a Rollup web part that can be used to aggregate SharePoint list items and also documents from across different sites and site collections, and that includes hub sites and associated sites. We could do that using two different ways. One is by using the SharePoint object model, and the other one is by using search. But what we're introducing today is a new version of the Lightning Conductor, which will actually allow us to use the Microsoft Graph to go and get content, not just from SharePoint lists, but also from other Office 365 tools, such as Planner or from OneDrive, or also our messages and so on. So we can build an aggregated view of that content and also apply the view formatting and column formatting without having to write any code. So to start off with, what I'm going to do is basically just click onto configure and show you how we can very easily aggregate content from SharePoint lists, and then we're going to go through and add another view which will allow us to go through and get content from Planner, and that will be using the graph. So in the drop down at the very top here, where I can choose what kind of list data I want to display, I'm going to select the tasks list. So these are going to be SharePoint task lists as opposed to Planner tasks. I can also choose how I want to refine the view. So do I want to display all of the tasks, or just my tasks, or my overdue tasks? So I'll select all tasks. And I can also choose where I want that content to come from. So it could be from the current site, it could be from different sites in the current site collection or in different site collections. If you're using modern, we can also use hub sites and associated sites, or we can also use the entire tenant if we want to, and then obviously apply some filters. So just to keep things simple, I'm going to go for the current site, and we'll choose save to display that content in a grid view. So you'll see here, once I click save, that we've very quickly got some content displayed on the page. All of my tasks are showing due, but what we can do is also highlight some other bits and pieces using the likes of column formatting, such as the percentage complete. What we may want to do here is go to the formatting option and basically go through and format these as data bars, so that we can see how complete some of these tasks are. So as we click save here, we get some data bars added, and I could also go through and highlight any high priority tasks as well, using either an icon or also by changing the fore-color or the background color. So you'll notice here, if I go through and choose a dot, we'll make the color red, because we want this to stand out, and we will put the icon over on the right hand side here, and then just give it the condition, and that condition is going to be that the priority is high. So you can see how they are now being highlighted to the user that these are high priority tasks. So that's working with a default SharePoint task list. So what I'm going to do here is just call that SharePoint tasks, and now I'm able to go through and add another view as well, and what I'm going to do here is call this one Planner tasks. So we've given that one the name, and we can click onto this cog icon in order to bring up the quick configuration again. Now notice the quick configuration, as we've already pointed out, has a number of different built-in views, and some of these already actually use graphs. So we've got things like the users and messages, but what I'm going to do is jump into the advanced mode here. And in the advanced mode, you'll be able to see that I can select the different type of provider. So I've got the search engine rollup provider. I've also got the object model rollup engine provider, or now the graph rollup engine provider. So I'm going to choose the graph rollup engine provider, and we can choose how we want to display the content as well. So we could use JSON, or we could also use a grid view or XSLT if you really want to. So we can choose from those different views as well. And then under the data source tab is where we can go through and configure what content we want to see. So just like using the Graph Explorer, we can go through and choose the entity type. So in the drop down of the entity type, I'm going to go down and choose the Planner task option. But let me just keep the menu here to introduce some of the other things we could do. Notice how we've also got things like drive item, which will be coming from OneDrive, or we could also display messages coming from people's inboxes, or content coming from a particular content type, or information about each user. So I'm going to go for the Planner task option, and there's a number of different options we have on here, such as item limits and query timeouts and things like that. But at the bottom is a query. So I can build a query just by clicking onto the plus icon, and don't worry, you don't have to actually know the query language in order to get this content back. So notice the query type, we've got some predefined queries in here. So in this particular case, it's just one, which is the user planner tasks. So I'm going to select that, and by leaving the user blank, it basically means the current user. So we'll just leave that as blank, and everybody will get a dynamic view then of their own planner tasks displayed inside the Lightning Conductor. And you'll notice also that we've got the little green tick there to say that this is valid. It is a valid query. If we were to go through and edit this and put an invalid query in there, then of course that's going to highlight that to us. Now the next tab is the columns tab, and this shows me all of the columns that are available to display from that particular entity from Microsoft Graph. So in here we've got things like the title. So I'm going to choose the title and display that. I'm going to also choose to display the % complete, and I also want to go through and get the due date. So we'll select the due date in here, and I also want to show a description as well. So we'll select details description. Now I can drag and drop these into the order that I want them to appear. So I can bring the title up to the very top. If you're familiar with the Lightning Conductor, then you'll know how easy that is. And notice also that I've got the ability to go through and change the sorting. I can change the filters. I can also add calculated columns in here as well if I wanted to, and also do some advanced filters which allow me to filter across columns. So when I go to the display tab here, I can now refine the display. And one of the things with the Microsoft Graph, the column names aren't as friendly as those inside a SharePoint list. So what I'm going to do here is actually just provide an alias as well. So I'll have title with a capital T. I'll just have due date as the next one. We'll have % complete with a space in it. And I'll also have a description of the tasks in there. So I can go through and change the aliases. I can fix the width if I want to, and I can also change the display format. So I'm only interested in the date, not the date time for the due date, so I'll choose short date in here. % complete, unlike the SharePoint lists, the maximum value is not 1, it's actually 100. So I'm just going to format this as a number as opposed to a %, otherwise we'd get some bizarre results. And the description I'm just going to leave alone. So we've got the display format set on there. I can go through and do grouping. I can also do formatting and things like that as well. So on the formatting, what I do want to do is change the % complete formatting. So we'll click onto the column formatting for that one. And just like we did before, I'm going to add some data bars, but this time I'll set that with a maximum value of 100, and we'll just hide the value there so we're just seeing the data bar. And maybe we could change the color of the data bar as well to be less bold. Okay, so we can go through and save that. I can turn on things like sticky headers if we've got lots of content returned. So as we scroll up and scroll down, we can still see the header information and things. And also I've got the linking, so I can link through to the items as well. So I'll hit save. And that's built the new view for me. It's not the default view yet though, so we need to select it. So in the drop down here, I can go through and choose the planner tasks. And there we go. We've now got content coming from Microsoft Planner into the Lightning Conductor web part, so we can go through and view that content. And just to show you also another example might be that we want to display something coming from OneDrive. So in this case, what I can do is go through to the advanced mode again, select the graph rollup provider once more, and from the data source, I will go down and choose drive item as opposed to drive, and we can go through and add a query. So in here, we've got a number of different queries that are predefined by us. So we'll choose the user drive items. Again, I'm not going to specify the user or the folder. We'll just accept the default. That's shown as valid, and now I can go through once again and select some columns that I want to see. So, so in here we'll go through and choose some columns. So I'm going to select the name column, and I'll also choose the created date time. And let's just grab that name column and move that up within our view. Okay, so that's given me a couple of columns to work with. I can go again to the display tab. Let's just set this to be the short date. We could do things like hide the file extension on the file name, and under grouping and linking, I'm just going to make sure that that name is linked. And we'll hit save. So that's given me my new view. So we'll just give that a name of drive items. And now we can go through and select that from the view, and there's a number of different drive items that I've got coming from my OneDrive. Okay, so that's a quick introduction to the new Microsoft Graph feature of the Lightning Conductor. So no longer is it just tied to SharePoint Lists and SharePoint libraries. You can obtain content from throughout Microsoft Office.